Hello, welcome to Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news here on YouTube. I'm here every Friday, except those Fridays I decide to take off. I hold the Iraqi dinar, so I bring you the latest on reforms and economics based on reports put out by the Middle East news media outlets, some stuff I find on Twitter, and some stuff I get from the elites. I do not have time for negativity as I do this weekly review as a complimentary of my time, and it's based off my interest. Thank you everyone who has joined me weekly. I appreciate all of your continued support. Those of you who are joining me for the first time, welcome to Newsroom. If you hold the Iraqi dinar, maybe this channel will be of an interest to you. I'm not a financial advisor. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. I appreciate all the positive feedback as this channel is growing. Thank you everyone again for being here. Let's get right into our news releases. Shafak News reports the Independent High Electoral Commissions in Iraq reveals Saturday that it has sent all results of the stations after recounting and sorting to the Iraqi judiciary on Sunday. A member of the commission's media team, Ahmad Jamal, told Shafak News agency that the commission will send Sunday all results of stations, records, and appeals to the judiciary authority. He adds that the judiciary will consider what was sent by the commissions and it needs an unspecified time according to the consideration of the results and records sent out by the commissions, noting that later we'll announce the final result of the elections after the judicial body has finished considering all the results and appeals. And last Thursday, reminding you that the Independent High Electoral Commissions announced the end of all recounting and manual counting at the request of forces objecting to preliminary results. Dozens of supporters and losing parties in the general elections that took place on the 10th of last October at the gates of the Green Zone in central Baghdad to demand a recounting and manual counting or re-election, accusing the commission and international observers of stealing their votes. Economist Alfred News reports the economic expert Bazin Antoine answers the question that's frequently asked in the streets of Iraq about the return of the dollar price to the previous or changing it in light of the high prices of goods, especially imported ones. Antoine said in a statement to Euphrates News that what's the white papers presented regarding the economic reality and changing the dollar exchange rate, which began to be implemented a whole year ago, cannot be modified or manipulated during the coming periods. He adds the success of dealing with the exchange rate changes in some countries such as Turkey and others. It's that they followed the policy of floating the lira, but Iraq at this time presently cannot do this. He justified the reason because of his wealth in the hands of the government, unlike other countries where the economy is dominated by the private sector. Economist Alfred News also reports Oil Minister Isham Abdul-Jabbar revealed Saturday that Iraq presented a vision to find a balance in energy markets ahead of the new OPEC Plus meeting earlier next month. Abdul-Jabbar said in a press statement that Iraq is a major member of OPEC and we have repetitively worked to find a balance in the energy market, noting that OPEC is working at the same level and we are monitoring the market, and there will be a periodic meeting with OPEC and its allies, and they will look at the extent of energy market balance. For OPEC to make its own decisions, he added, we do not have any expectations about whether the current monthly increase of 400,000 barrels per month will remain or not. As members stated, we'll wait for the market research reports that give clear vision, and the decision will be based on what is provided by technical experts. Speaking about oil, Economic Alfred News reported oil prices fell on Tuesday as a global Brent mix fell below the levels of $71 a barrel for the first time in about 3 months. This came aimed economic concerns about the impact of new strands of coronavirus on demand for crude. Baghdad National News Center reports the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Mauser Mohammed Chella, confirmed Sunday that the next year's budget is not astrally, while indicating that it will focus on implementing investment projects. Chella said in a press statement, the fluctuation of oil markets and the global economic situation will cast a shadow over the draft general budget for 2022, noting that the next budget will focus on implementing a package of government investment projects projects that are in line with diversifying the economy and achieving stability and growth. Chella explained that the 2022 budget is the Esterly, but rather, it's subject to principles of consolidation or financial discipline as much as possible in order to avoid borrowing except for extreme necessities. The Ministry of Planning earlier reiterated that the employee salaries, social protection, and other expenses were not affected by the delay in approving the general budget law for the year 2022, while referring to the small committee studies its basics. Baghdad Magazine News reports the Central Bank of Iraq announces Tuesday the signing of the Memorandum of Understanding with the Turkish Mazak regarding suspicious financial operations and money laundering. The bank said in a statement that based on the cooperation between the anti-money laundering and terrorist financing offices in Iraq and similar units in other countries, the office has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with the Turkish Financial Information Unit Mazak, noting that the memorandum will work on facilitating the exchange of information with the Turkish side regarding suspicious financial operations, adding that the memorandum will also work to limit money laundering and terrorist financing operations, pointing to the need for concerted international efforts to confront these crimes and combat their emerging methods. Shafak News reports the National Bank of Kuwait reported Tuesday that Kuwait has received $1.47 billion in war compensation from Iraq. The bank said that Kuwait received compensation payments from the United Nations Committee from Iraq for the war amounting to $1.47 billion, 0.4 billion dinars in April, July, and October of this year, adding the remaining amount is $629 million for the final payment. And what we've all been waiting for, Shafak News finally reports the leader of the Satirist movement, Muqtada al-Satir, commented on the final results of the early parliamentary elections that took place on October 10th, which was Tuesday. Thank you to the Electoral Commissions, al-Satir said in a very brief tweet on Twitter. Early on Tuesday, the commission announced the final results of the early legislative elections, which were led by the Satirist bloc with 73 seats, while the Progress Coalition, led by Mohammed al-Halbousi, won 37 seats, and the State of Law Coalition, led by Nuri al-Maliki, won 33 seats. The Kyrgyzstan Democratic Party came fourth with 31 seats, while al-Fatah's alliance, led by the Secretary General of Bardo Organization, Hadi al-Amari, came fifth with 17 seats, and the Kyrgyzstan Alliance came sixth with 17 seats, with a difference in the numbers of votes between it and the al-Fatah Alliance. The AZM Coalition won 14 seats, the Extension Alliance won 9 seats, and the New Generation Movement got 9 seats, while the Canon Sunrise got 5 seats, the National Contract got 4 seats, State Force also got 4, the Mass of Our Identity, 3 seats, the Movement, 3 seats, were also settled for ILA, the Iraq Turkmen Front, 1 seat, while 16 political parties won 1 seat each, in addition to the Independent winning 43 seats. The Satirist movement, in seeking to form a majority government, not a consensual one, for the first time since 2005, but its efforts are being rejected by the Shiite forces that have lost many of their seats and reject the election results. Baghdad Obelisk reports informed sources revealed Wednesday, December 1st, an expected meeting between the leader of the Satirist movement and Force of Coordination Framework. The source said that the meeting will discuss the results of the elections and a way out for crisis towards forming a government. Tuesday, November 30th, the head of the Iraqi radio and television unit, Mr. Hamid al-Husseini, suggested a future consensus between the coordination framework and the Satirist. He said that this consensus will be soon. The Satirist bloc topped the results of the Iraqi legislative elections that took place on the 10th of October and was mirrored by accusations of fraud by political force. The final results came as unexpected when the independent high electoral commissions announced them on Tuesday after counting and sorting for a number of electoral stations. This is a change in 1 seat in 5 governments compared to the parliamentary results announced on the 8th of this month. Commission Chairman Judge Anon said during a press conference, he revealed that the voter turnout reached 44%, and the number of participating voters exceeded 9,600,000 voters. According to the Arab economy on Wednesday, advisor to Iraqi Prime Minister for Economic Affairs Malja Mohammed Saleh revealed the preparation of the budget that he describes as precautionary for the year 2022, indicating that the new budget may depend on borrowing. Saleh said in an interview with official Al Sabah newspaper, the draft budget for the next year is ready, and for the first time it contains a plan for investment projects that is clear and built for a period of 3 years. And each of these 3 years include allocations so that there is no commitment and delay, revealing that the 2022 budget was built on the basis of oil prices of $50 a barrel, despite the fact that the current oil prices are over $80 a barrel. He pointed out that the government adopts this price as a precaution because Iraq is a rentier country and lives on oil that is mortgaged at the world's market price, noting that the procedure will create a hypothetical and not real deficit, meaning that if it is a surplus of oil, it will cover budget obligations. If this is not achieved, the state will borrow. He pointed out that the possibility of borrowing has existed in all Iraq's budgets since 2004, and until today as the precautionary part with a hypothetical deficit due to the previous and current financial management law, which requires the financial authorities not to go to increase in oil prices, adding that the borrowing is a place in the budget for necessities, as it was. In 2021 budget, which contains 29 trillion dinars, more than 19 billion dinars, but there were practically no borrowing. Arab economy, he went on to say, if there is permissionable borrowing called financial space, it does not affect financial sustainability in the future, expanding that. The borrowing in the budget is internal and external, but the government resorts to the internal for its ease and low risk. The economic advisor to the Iraqi prime minister ruled out the possibilities of the impact of the new mutagen, the Omicron, on the economy in general, indicating that the new mutagen may reduce oil prices, but there will be no complete closure, as happened previously for the global economy, because the world adopts the closure in advance and great losses occur. The Iraqi budget depends more than 90% on oil sales, which were affected last year by the corona pandemic, which prompted Iraq to move towards borrowing to bridge the budget deficit. The chairman of the Ministerial Council for Energy, Ministry of Oil, Abdul Jabbar, stressed the need to implement long-term projects in the field of energy, stressing in a statement that the importance of energy is supporting the national economy and ensuring the rights of the future generations. He called for the completion of sovereign funds projects, explaining that the funds achieve justice in the distribution of revenues for oil and gas and how to invest and develop them through promising programs and projects and clear plans commensurate with the great development in the world. Shafak News reported it's an opportunity that seems more appropriate than before for U.S. President Joe Biden to announce an official end to the war on Iraq, declared nearly 20 years ago, especially since American lawmakers are also studying the Congress decision to cancel the authorization for use of military force. Biden had announced his support for this repeal, and a White House statement said a few days ago that the U.S. administration supports repealing the authorization for use of military force of 2002. As the United States has no ongoing military activity that relies solely on the authorization, and it is likely to be used to repeal the authorization. The law has little effect on current military operations. Since Biden took office, his administration has mostly based his position on commander-in-chief under Article 2 of the Constitution rather than a 2002 mandate to justify repeated strikes on Iran-backed militia in Iraq and Syria. The American newspaper Washington Post shed light on what is described as the opportunity. In the report translated by Shafak News Agency stated that Joe Biden may get a chance to officially end the war in Iraq. And the American newspaper stated Biden could be in a position to rescind the measures taken by the U.S. Congress 2 decades ago that provided legal rationale for invasion of Iraq in March 2003, the authorization for the use of military force adopted by American lawmakers in October 2002, and she considered that if the file is placed on the office of the American president, it will be the first time since the September 11th attack that the president may take concrete steps to curb the powers of executive authority related to waging wars and not expanding it. The newspaper added Senate Republicans have postponed the final vote on the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, which the newspaper described as a way to revoke the authorization of the use of military force. The newspaper added that the National Defense Authorization Act is generally considered legislation that must be passed Parliament, which means that it is likely to find its way through Congress to Biden's office sooner than later. She pointed out that the two mandates of the 2002 and 1991 on the use of force allowed military actions against Saddam Hussein regime, and they are still on the table despite his execution in 2007. While Democrat supports repeal, Republicans argue that it would weaken the authorities that support the presence of U.S. military and the resilience of military operations. And that's all for this week's Newsroom Weekly Review, your Middle East U.S. entertainment news on reforms and economics. I try to bring you all the latest Iraqi news without having to keep up with all the different outlets. I'm Chella Smith. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you like my content, give me a big thumbs up. I will see you guys next Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific here on YouTube for your next Newsroom update. Again, shout out to Currency365 for his continued support. If you want to learn about stocks and cryptos, I highly recommend joining him and his crew for the most recent updates. You can find him on YouTube or Patreon. Thank you everyone again for your continued support and joining me this week. Have a great weekend. I'm signing off. Make sure you join us Fridays, 4 p.m. with Newsroom Updates with Chella Smith, Entertainment News. And don't forget us on Sundays for What's Cooking in the Kitchen. You can also find us behind the scenes 24/7 on Snapchat.